Now for tonight's climate check. This summer's extreme heat is driving several species of coral to the brink of extinction in Florida. Some reefs around the Keys are completely destroyed, and rescuers tonight trying to save what's left. Experts say those that have turned white could all die within a week. They're starving to death after expelling their food source in a process called bleaching. Coral is extremely sensitive to temperature change, and some areas of water around the Keys have been around 90 degrees. Climate change has already killed off about half of the world's reefs, something a couple of young people are drawing attention to. Laibah, Ahmend and Sharana Sabesan are both students of the online K-12 Academy, and they've won academic scholarships for their work developing what they call Coral of Tomorrow, a product designed to repopulate coral reefs. This is really fascinating stuff. We're both excited that these bright young women are here with us now to talk about it. Hey, thanks for joining us. Laibah, I want to start with you. What inspired you to design Coral of Tomorrow?
Yeah, thank you. When I first looked at issues under the sea, I learned about how there were so many things that are affected by coral death. It was too much for me to even summarize in a simple paper. That really opened my eyes because I knew that they were dying, but I didn't know that they affected so much. And that's when me and Sharana, after talking about it, realized that if we could develop a solution to this, it'll improve so many different facets of life, whether it be local economies, tourism, or even fishing industries.
So Sharana, tell us how you came up with that solution with Laibah.
It's actually a pretty long process. So our interest started months ago. We first started with a project called Poseidon, and the idea there was essentially targeting specifically ocean acidification. What we did was we had these artificial coral structures release this basic substance called magnesium hydroxide that would bring down ocean acidification. But we realized that's just not going to work because essentially we're just dumping a chemical into the ocean, right? So we're like, okay, we have to be smarter with this. We have to do this in a natural way. And that's how we stumbled upon our solution. Our solution is essentially taking a coral called Clad D that's resistant to ocean acidification, and it's able to also handle high temperatures and trying to speed up the growth of Clad D. The thing about Clad D is it's a very slow growing species. So we're like, okay, we got to go into the growth process. So then we found and fine-tuned an existing growth method. That's called microfragmentation. That's basically when you take a coral and you break it into smaller pieces. Now, just as a little analogy, it's like if you took a starfish's limbs and you cut those limbs would grow into individual starfish, similar to how coral would behave. Now, it goes a bit deeper than this because the part that we fine-tuned was what those microfragmented coral are grown on. They're grown on something called substrates. Think of that as the cement base under a skyscraper. We're like, right now, substrates aren't the best. Mostly what's used is ceramic, and ceramic just is not good. So we developed this criteria on finding a good substrate based on three things. It has a safe biochemical breakdown. It has a good rate of degradation so the coral can settle, and it's cheap and widely available. And a very interesting substrate we found was loofahs, the things that you scrub your body with in the shower.
Right, right. Well, this is very, very well explained, first of all. And Laibah, explain how climate change is responsible for this bleaching.
Yeah, so coral has a symbiotic relationship with a microalgae known as zooxanthellae. The coral provides food and protection to the zooxanthellae, and in turn, the zooxanthellae gives the coral oxygen, what it needs to breathe. The problem is when it becomes too hot, as in when global warming just gets too much, it can worsen ocean acidification. And ocean acidification and global warming together can cause the zooxanthellae to release something other than oxygen. It releases something called oxygen-free radicals, which are actually toxic and harmful to the coral. So as an effort to protect itself, the coral kicks out the zooxanthellae, but in the process, it loses what it needs to survive and it loses its color. That's why we call it bleaching.
Well, both of you are just blowing us all away because you sound like scientists, not students. But listen, there's been some talk, Sharana, about getting involved with the Reef Restoration Foundation in Australia. They're impressed with both of you, just like we are. How is that going so far?
So we emailed them a few months back with our idea, and we're like, oh, and the CEO reached back to us and he said he was interested and that we would keep talking. Now, we have yet to introduce our substrate to him because that's something that we recently just figured out. So we're very excited to tell him about that.
Yeah,
and see where that goes.
Okay, well, I hope it goes somewhere because your idea seems to be right on time and you explained it so well. And both of you, Laibah, are passionate about this project, but you're from opposite ends of the country. How did you come together?
We first met at an event in New York called NFT NYC. From then on, after exchanging socials, we kept in touch and found out that we were part of one or two similar extracurricular activities. From then on, we realized that a lot of our mindsets were very similar. So we like doing things a certain way. We like to live our lives a certain way, whether it be like entrepreneurial or looking at the business side of things. Then we started doing hackathons and competitions together, and we ended up in this competition.
Well, you're both winners in our book. We appreciate your time tonight and keep doing what you're doing. Laibah and Sharana, co-creators of Coral of Tomorrow. Appreciate your time tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.